So Jeff Palmer here with the Aligned Entrepreneur, and I'm here with the one and only Aiden Palmer.
That is correct.
And today we are talking about websites that convert. And that has everything to do with being aligned because your website needs to align with who you are and who your brand is and make sure that your messaging is clear so that when you're doing advertising and you're promoting yourself, you're not just wasting money. So, welcome, Aiden.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about who you are and how you ended up in web development.
I've been doing web development for 3.5 years now. I got into it because I joined a marketing company actually, I'm not going to name the marketing company, but I worked for a marketing company as a web developer. And in that time, I've spent a lot of time delivering redesigned websites to clients. That is my main job. I take people's old websites that are super outdated and that maybe are not performing the best, and I use all of their current assets and content and some of their current photos um, to create them a version that does convert and that is faster and has a better user experience and that tells their story better. I've been doing that for about the last 3.5 years, and really in the last year and a half, I'd say I've focused on using the story brand aspect in my designs. And now it does apply to every single person, but in every single instance, you don't need to be as targeted with it. We're kind of limited in my job to what we are already provided with asset wise and content wise. So I kind of have to work with what I know about the client to come up with these things on my own. But there are just general questions and general things that people spend too much time doing. And I think that I see these a lot and people should know about them. And just so that they can get a version of their website that really represents them well and tells the story the best for them,
Yeah,
even though they might not know it.
that makes sense. Well, we'll get into a little bit more about what the story brand is and how that applies. But I think what you're saying about redoing websites and upgrading them so they convert and having to deal with or work with existing assets and existing content is kind of where most people are at this
Yeah.
particular point, where
Yeah.
if you've been an established business for a while, you have a website, and you're always needing to upgrade it. But it takes a considerable amount of time and energy and money to do so. So you want to do it and do it so it works. But also, I think what we're going to kind of get into is that what we think will work is not what actually works. Right?
Yes.
And so I know that's true for a lot of advertising. And so the things that we're going to be going over as far as what converts not only applies to websites, but applies from building advertising and sales in general, which is focusing on the customer, client, or patient and how that looks. So, and tell me a little bit, or tell the audience a little bit about the types of businesses that you're working with.
Yeah, so normally I deal primarily in two, usually home services or lawyers, whether that's criminal defense or estate and probate. Doesn't matter. I've really done everything, as well as home services. I've done all across the board, from plumbers to HVAC to uh, outdoor companies that do
Mm-hmm.
landscaping and
Mm-hmm.
everything. So those are really the main two that I work with, and I've probably done 350 sites in the last 2 years on that are between the two, you know,
Mm-hmm.
in in either legal or home services.
So these are local businesses, not usually national type brands, but more local.
Yeah, they're
Lo-
definitely not national brands. They might not be local. They're definitely small business. I'd say 4 locations and under.
yeah. But
Yeah.
local meaning that you're driving traffic to it
Right.
locally, right? You're
Brick
not
and mortar.
doing, yeah,
They're
you're
brick and
doing
mortar
brick
businesses.
and mortar businesses, service businesses, mostly business to consumer type
Yes.
businesses, not B2B type businesses.
No, not usually.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, great. Well, let's get right into it. So, Aiden, what works and what doesn't work and why?
Okay. Well, my first section for this is going to be talking about obsessing over logo fonts and your color palette. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about exactly what color looks correct in a specific section on their website, or that their logo needs to be the exact version that is going to represent them for the rest of their time continuum, and they're never going
Yeah.
to be able to change it again. And these are, these things are good to, to focus on. You want to have a clean logo, a good, solid color scheme that matches and isn't like clashing. But spending weeks talking about different shades and having the closeness of the text to be, microscopically close together, and it doesn't actually convert and convince the customer why they should choose you. It just makes it look pretty. Um, Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't focus on it whatsoever, but it's just continuing to focus on the overall aspect of the website and just having that be, your basis. People, that's generally the first thing that you're doing. So it takes usually the longest, and people just overthink that thought.
Mm.
But really, it's just like deciding with your gut up front what looks good. If it looks great, then you continue on. The first goal, I think, should be not focusing on the logo, but what is the initial message that you want to come across. I think that's the number one thing you should spend the most time on, is what is your offer, what is your message, what do you want to relate to your customer within the first 5 seconds up there. That's what you should be spending the majority of your time on, instead of focusing on the logo and the design. While those are the first things you see, the first thing you should focus on is the message.
Yeah. So going back to that, so top three, what are the top three pages that are visited on somebody's website? Do you know?
It's going to be the home.
Mm-hmm.
The home page is going to be,
Number one.
depending on where you're running your ads. If you're running your ads to a specific page, then it might be to that. But usually it's going to be the home page.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on how you're laying out the story, the way that I lay it out, the next most visited page is going to be your About Us page, or, the what we do kind of page.
Yeah.
And then the third page on that I experience afterwards is the staff page. Usually that is more towards like the lawyer side. The staff, you'll see like the staff profile pages as like
Right.
the higher viewed ones. But you'll still also see it on the home services sites as well if they have those.
So your plumber's going to be like, staffing page, like
They
pretty
do
much-
have staffing pages.
Well, I'm sure they do,
They
but-
do.
you
but-
just want somebody to come and fix that.
It's going to be more the About Us page than that set.
You're not keeping me from jail for the rest of my life. You're just
Yeah.
coming to fix my leaky toilet.
No, exactly. They're not doing like a background check on those guys. But some of them, if they have like really cool branding and like they wrap their trucks and they they all wear uniforms, then they'll do that. But those companies do have higher churn, so it's harder to keep staff updated on
Right.
on home services site, just because the employees they have.
It's like your
higher burn rate.
mechanic,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to go to my mechanic and I'm going to go to his About Us page for his staff. I don't think so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's not gonna have like a professional headshot and this is where I went to school and did all this.
Right.
That's just not. But that is our job as a marketing company, is to. If I were working for a mechanic, or I were working for any company that had staff, I would highly suggest them having a staff page, because people like to see
Yeah, they like
who
to
is
see
going to be
people.
showing up at their
Sure.
door, and it creates a good, consistent experience from the website to what they see in person. It alleviates that kind of anxiety, and I talk about this with home services a lot. Their number one client is the stay-at-home mom. It is the stay-at-home housewife, because that is who is calling
Yeah.
home services people. And that's why you want your websites to have lots of good people, high-end imagery, very bright imagery. You want to have pictures of your
Yeah.
staff so that they know who's going to show up at their door. It creates that comfort. And I find that the people that do that and they highlight their staff and have pictures of people and create a consistent brand across that, they convert better.
Yeah.
So,
And so let's go back to the top pages that are visited just to put this in context before we go on. So, what's the average time on somebody's homepage? Do you know?
I'd say on average, well, I don't know about it specifically for homepage, but due to our testing, our heat map testing, normally someone spends between 17 and 19 seconds on
17 and 19 seconds.
on any
Okay.
given page.
So, you could have somebody laboring over their homepage for weeks or months for the average visitor to spend 17 seconds on it.
Yeah.
So it ain't that deep, right?
Yeah, and that's
It ain't
really
deep.
it. That's
it ain't
really
that
it.
deep. So you got to be able to capture their attention quickly, right? So that's important, right? Attaching, but we know generally what is going to attach their attention quickly if you know your audience,
Right.
if you know your target customer, if you
Yes.
know your target client, if you know your target patient, right? So that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture their attention quickly and convert that person, that visitor into a lead customer, client, so on and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you have some examples, and as we can go through here and look at some websites and see, okay, so what are the top things that should be on the homepage that convert and why?
Yeah. So I have an example of a great site here. It's called Zen Founder, and they are an entrepreneurial company that does consulting for business owners and so on. But I really like the way that their website looks. It tells a very good story, which is, we haven't gotten super into that, but that is really what I'm trying to convey, is that you're trying to tell a story with your site, and this site does a really good job of telling the story, as well as putting the customer as the hero of the story, how it helps the customer, how your accolades are going to help the customer, and what you offer, what you solve for them. And that should be apparent immediately, right? That should be the first thing that they see. What do you solve for them? So let me share my enter picture. Share my screen. Okay. So very simple, first of all. Like this, it being simple alone, you might look at this and be like, oh, this doesn't actually seem like that much. But it being simple alone is actually saying a lot. So you have just the logo, very simple. You have 5 things that they can also click on. You have a work with me button. That's the only thing that they have as a clickable option here on the homepage.
Mm-hmm.
It says, burnout and isolation are not part of your job description. Zen Founder helps entrepreneurs thrive in business and life. Right there, within 5 seconds, you know exactly what the company does. And then it says, work with me. So this is an initial, this is your 5-second message, right? And this shows what they do. It's simple and easy to interact with. And there's one thing that the client can do from this point on, right?
Yeah. It's interesting though, and maybe I'm just saying this. When I said burnout and isolation are not a part of your job description, I was thinking this had something to do with employees. And then it says it's Zen Founder helps entrepreneurs thrive in business and in life.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it captures my attention, but I was a little bit confused because as an entrepreneur, I don't have a job description.
Exactly. That's true.
But you're driving, I'm intrigued by what it says. Burnout and isolation are not a part of your job description. And then it says Zen Founder helps entrepreneurs thrive in business and in life.
Right.
So,
but this is, probably according to whatever research they did
Right.
on their target audience. And our entrepreneurs are probably experiencing burnout and isolation. They're burnt out from working too much, and they are isolated. They're by themselves at their fucking computers, at their computers and desks. they're at their computers and desks, and they're just isolated. So this is probably based on their target research and their market research,
Yeah, and
what
I'm
they came
curious.
up with.
Yeah, I'm curious what dollar value or what income level entrepreneur they're looking at targeting.
It's a good question. I don't know. I would have
Yeah,
to
just
see,
curious.
but um,
So let's see how it goes
so
here.
so
Now
right,
back up. Oh, sorry, back
yeah.
up to the top. So the most valuable real estate here on this part is which part? Like where's the eye trail going to start and where's it going to go?
So the eye trail is gonna start here,
On the
and
left.
yeah, it's gonna start here, and then it's gonna go here, and
Okay.
then it's gonna fall across to this photo,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got that work with me, right? Like that's kind of how it's directing your eye.
Yeah.
Little-ish text, you have the main text here with the highlight, obviously drawing your attention immediately to the knot.
Mm-hmm.
And then smaller text, photo, work with me, only button. You have this
Mm-hmm.
red, consistent. That is how my eyes follow.
Now,
And that's generally how I set mine up too. You want left aligned text.
so left to
usually.
right, just like you read.
Yes.
Can you make this look like it's on mobile? Can you press? Can you?
I can.
Because what percentage of users are going mobile versus desktop?
I don't know if I have the.
It's going to be more. When the numbers that I see, as far as our visitors are, it's higher on mobile than it is on desktop.
Yeah, so in general, for most people, mobile is going to be the majority at this point in time. I don't think it's ever going to go back to desktop being the majority.
Being a majority, right?
Yeah.
So how it looks on mobile is also meaning the cleaner it is, and the less cluttered it is, the better it's going to look on mobile. The better, you know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
making it too busy on desktop is going to make it look way too busy on mobile.
Yes, it's keeping it very concise. Not a lot of things to confuse them. Very clear on what you're doing and your call to actions. Work with me is very simple, and you click it and it says book a 15-minute call, and this is it. First name, email address, low friction. Low friction sign up. They're not asking for them to jump through a bunch of hoops. They're not saying a bunch of things were the best. They don't even have it in the first. They don't even have this in the first fold. They don't even have their accolades and their businesses in the first fold of the company. They don't. They want to keep all your attention on this. And then as you scroll down, you have a thing here. Have you lost touch with what's important? Are you swimming in opportunities but unsure of how to level up? Da, 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 da. They're coming up with lines based on what they've done in their market research that are things that people have problems with. They're asking questions to how is it going to pertain to you, right? Let us help. Stop wasting precious time, right? This is another section that we talk about in the StoryBrand play, which is what I use is, by Donald Miller. We didn't really get a chance to go into this, but when you have a guide through the website, it's what calls them to action. You show empathy and authority, right? And you identify with their pain, and then you present a simple plan forward after this, right? Mm-hmm. So that you have, a good testimonial here with what can they get? 72% of entrepreneurs are worried about their mental health. They have a statistic here, numbers perform well. And then they have a simple services, right? Here's what we can do to help. These are our solutions. We do all of these things: consulting, podcast, books, da da da. Good. Some more statistics about all of the people that they helped. Testimonials. This is what matters, right? Telling the story. All of this stuff is not about them. It's not about what they do. It's just about the customer. Mm-hmm. The customer, what we do for the customer, and then the customer again, right? They're really telling the story of like all of the things they can do for the customer and how they help them. Again, at the bottom, simple. So simple call to actions. They're directing you. They don't have tons of play stuff. They don't have tons of moving things. They don't have huge images. They don't have any of that stuff. It's a very simple website. Now, to give you an example of something that looks bad, or is maybe not so much the best user experience, let's use this one. This is a cupcake website. Very different from Zen Founder. But
I still see ZenFounder.
okay, let me share my screen again. This is a cupcake website.
Toronto Cupcakes.
Yeah. Now this is not bad off aside from the cookies, but not bad. But I would say it's not super informative of what they do. They have a picture of cupcakes, but they have this thing about the tariffs, and there's a button here that doesn't really do anything. Their side navigation is over here on the side, and it works, but it's not the greatest user experience.
Is this like an e-commerce website? Like they're trying to sell you cupcakes?
I actually don't know. These are
yeah,
Toronto
order cupcakes or order online. I'm like I didn't even know if I was.
Yeah,
but
so
I'm not gonna order because I'm not paying tariffs for cupcakes.
Right. So like this is good because it has all the things that we talked about, right? Like it has simple, it has clean, it has an order now button that draws your attention. But this isn't a web, this isn't something that is going to convert. It doesn't make the customer feel a certain way. It's just a bunch of text on a page with one photo. It's not going to convert for somebody.
Yeah.
And that's what, the point I'm trying to make with this is you can have these sites that have all of this insane design. Oh, let me give you another example. So here's an example of a site that is maybe too over designed. We have so this is a website for a digital experiences studio. Now, this is an example of something that is just too overly designed. It looks simple and sleek, but something like this will not convert well because it just doesn't load well. So while it might look cool, and when you're on the site, it shows like a very cool story, and you can see I can move in the background, right? It's kind of cool, but the page speed on something like this is going to be atrocious, and it's not going to perform well on mobile because mobile phones cannot handle loading something like this. What is
the load speed, and what does that mean, and why is it important?
Right. So the thing that Google takes into account for your website, there's a few things that it takes into account when ranking it, but I like to talk about what it takes for organic ranking, and that is your page speed on desktop and mobile. It rates it out of 100. Usually when I'm checking older websites, they're performing somewhere in the low 70 range, 50 ranges. And that can be due to a lot of things. Compression of videos, having weird load times, like load actions, having too big of content, having long videos. There's tons of things that can affect your load times. Big pictures. There's lots of stuff, but keeping it simple, the page speed Google takes into account, and it also likes to take into account that you're making changes to your website, which allows it to re-index and constantly see that you're making updates. That's why blogs perform great on sites, because it shows Google that you're making constant changes to your website. So page speed in general should be above a 90. I think for most, I won't launch a website unless it's above a 90 out of 100 page speed. I think that's the bare minimum. If you just think about it as your...
When you say you won't launch a website, okay.
I won't launch one of the websites that I make unless the page speed is loading at a 90 out of 100. If not, I will send it back, to the tech team, and I will have them work through whatever technical stuff that they do for that. I'm not 100% sure what they're doing.
No, I gotcha.
But
that's why it's important, is because Google says it's important. It's because when somebody comes to your website and they're waiting, then they're going to get frustrated and they're going to leave. So
exactly. I mean, you think about that user experience on your own. Yeah, you get annoyed when you're sitting there waiting for a website to load. You're going to leave. right?
Yeah.
Your customer is going to do the same thing. Or if it's a bad user experience, if it's laggy, if it doesn't, if it doesn't show the correct information, if the buttons don't work, like, you're gonna leave. It's a bad user experience as well, just like that other site I showed you too. While it might have the general features of the website, it's not really a website that's going to convert because it doesn't tell a story or evoke any sort of emotion from your customer.
Yeah. Gotcha. Good. So in summary here, so what are the things that work?
The things that work is having a clear vision of your brand and your customer. So how you help the customer. So what is your initial pitch? Your 5 seconds. What do you want them to see in the first 5 seconds?
Right.
Then it's going to be good call to actions on the website, stuff that is pertaining to your target audience that goes along with their pain points, and caters to their pain points so that they can convert.
And tell them what to do.
Tell them what to do. Yes. And tell them how you help them. Your job is to portray yourself in the best light for how it pertains to their situation.
Yeah.
Keeping the wording simple. If you're in a field, for instance, like marketing, if you're in the marketing field and you're using ROAS and SEO, I mean, people understand SEO, but if you're using ROAS and CTA and, PPC, and you're using all of these acronyms that people that don't do this every day do not know, they are going to blow. They're going to leave your website. They're not going to try to stick it out because they just don't understand. You're not explaining it in a way that is going to make it beneficial for them. It might be beneficial for other experts, but it's not going to be beneficial to the average person who is going to be hiring a marketing company. They don't know that. So using everyday language that is, comes across easy. It's not like crazy big words, using soft text, stuff like that. Stuff of basically like a fifth grader. Explain it to them like a fifth grader. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is just you're telling your story. That's really
telling your story as though it relates to the person you're talking to, not telling your story about how great you are.
Exactly. Telling your story as it relates to the person, not to you, not to I did this and we did this and we've been around for 20 years. We've been around for 20 years delivering helping people with blah, or that's how you should portray it, not just I.
Right.
It's us. What can we do?
Yeah.
For you?
All right, good. That makes sense. Good. Well, thank you very much for sharing that insight. And if somebody wants to ask you a question,
you can email me at aidenpalmer2001@gmail.com.
Okay. They can email you.
You can email me any questions about your marketing, and I may or may not answer them, but I will try my best to help you.
Or you can direct them to somebody that can.
Or yes, I can get you in touch with somebody who can answer your questions. That's for sure.
That sounds good. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.